Good evening. This is some story, isn't it? We now know who Gareth Southgate's full-time successor is. Let's get right into it. Rob Dorset is here. He is totally across this story. Rob, this seems to have escalated very quickly. I mean, yesterday people were talking about Pep Guardiola, could England persuade him, etc., etc., and now it's Thomas Tuchel. How's it happened?
Yeah, well, look, the people I was speaking to yesterday poured a little bit of cold water on the Pep Guardiola story. My understanding there was that, yes, the FA made a very initial approach to him last July. So a few days after Gareth Southgate had resigned, as they did a number of managers at the time, very tentative just to test the waters. And they weren't giving anything in terms of encouragement, shall we say, from the Guardiola camp. And that's the only contact they had. So there was contact, which is quite why the media reported the story as they did. But I don't think the FA ever thought it was going to happen. I think from an FA perspective, from the big bosses, it would have been the dream ticket to appoint Pep Guardiola. The best manager of his generation, without a doubt. Somebody who would give England every chance of winning a major trophy. But I don't think the FA bosses ever thought it was going to happen, so they looked elsewhere. Why has it happened now? Because you're right, it's happened very, very quickly. I think what's happened with Lee Carsley in this international break has focused the minds and brought the FA's plans forward, quite simply. England lost to Greece in a pretty abject fashion, 2-1 when it could have been 4-1. And Lee Carsley, in truth, great coach that he is, lovely guy as he is, struggled, I think, with the media duties and some mixed messaging coming back from him. So I think that's when the FA thought, right, enough's enough. We thought about Lee Carsley as an option. It's not going to work. We need to move forward here. Thomas Tuchel was always on their short list of possible candidates, and they've accelerated it and moved very quickly. He's out of work, having left Bayern Munich in May, so was available, and clearly the negotiations have gone pretty quickly and pretty effectively to get to a point where here we are now with a news conference scheduled for lunchtime at Wembley tomorrow to confirm that the man on your screen, Thomas Tuchel, the former Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich manager, is now the England manager. And I don't think even 24 hours ago we thought that was likely.
Rob, eyebrows will be raised, of course, with this appointment. He's German. It's England's third non-English manager. Are you surprised that the Football Association have not gone for an English coach? And is it maybe a sad indictment, perhaps, of the lack of quality of English managers who could potentially do the job?
I think there's an awful lot of people who will see it that way, Dharmesh. When we speak to the chief executive of the FA, Mark Bullingham, tomorrow, that will be a key question for him. Is appointing a German coach as the men's England manager an admission of failure for the FA, who are in charge of coach education in this country? Are we saying that too many young English coaches are not coming through and are good enough? Look, I can understand that argument. I can understand that point of view. But let's be honest, Graham Potter and Eddie Howe, two English managers who were on the FA's shortlist, one of whom in Graham Potter is absolutely available and could have started the job tomorrow, were not even consulted for the role. Eddie Howe, of course, is in post at Newcastle, but with his situation there, the FA, you would have thought, might want to explore with a new football director at Newcastle whether that relationship was going to work and whether Eddie Howe might be available. The FA chose not to. So clearly, employing a homegrown manager was not top of their wish list. And I think what Thomas Tuchel does provide is a track record of winning trophies. And you can't say that about Eddie Howe. You can't say that about Graham Potter. So the FA have decided that it's more important to get a winner in, somebody who, in Tuchel's case, is particularly good at winning knockout matches. He's proved that in all the cup competitions he's had in France, in Germany and in England, with the hope of winning things. So I think it's very clear from this appointment that the priority is to get a manager who they think can win a major trophy for England, finally get them over the line after Gareth Southgate brought us so close to two European Championship finals and didn't quite manage to deliver a trophy.
We know about the strength of support of the England fans, and we saw that connection that Gareth Southgate built up, certainly for the majority of his time in charge. Do you think there might be, on that subject of nationality, a pushback from some sections of the England support?
I think there will be, from some sections, but not all sections. And it's interesting that we're running a poll. Since we broke this news exclusively that Thomas Tuchel was the favourite to take over at lunchtime, we've been running a poll on the Sky Sports app, which is pretty much split 50-50, about whether England fans think it's a good idea to appoint Thomas Tuchel as the next England manager. you're never going to get 100%. I think if it was any manager that they'd appointed, it would probably be split. So I don't think it's been that negative, but it's something that the FA will be very mindful of, and they will have had to consider very, very carefully in making this appointment. There will be a backlash from some sections of the England support. There will be a backlash, almost inevitably, from some sections of the English media as well. Thomas Tuchel will have a hard time of it at times. We know he's a feisty character. We know he has a strong personality. He speaks his mind. He has fallen out with bosses at various clubs in the past. There will be plenty of people in the media who will be poking that. Poke Thomas Tuchel with a stick, see if you can get him to react, give us a good headline. And there'll be some sections of the England support who will want him to fail, without shadow of a doubt. So that saying, look, proof that we should have had an English coach in charge of the England team. But the FA will have made a very sober and objective decision in considering all of those options. And they clearly think that the tactician, the type of football that he plays, this high-octane football as it's described, with a high press, lots of attacking players on show, very positive on the front foot, played through the thirds very quickly. That's the sort of football they want to see this England team play. But ultimately, the FA will be judged now, as Thomas Tuchel will, on whether the England men's team can deliver silverware.
Rob, Thomas Tuchel has had issues, shall we say, with club hierarchies in the past.
Very much so.
These questions will be asked as well about how he's going to, let's say, get on with the FA's hierarchy. Do you think it's very different that he won't have to necessarily be dealing with directors and chief executives day in, day out, like he might have had to have done if he was in a club job compared to the national job?
That's a really good point, Darmish, and maybe, yes, maybe that's the case. But I think what we don't know, and the big unknown here, is how Thomas Tuchel is going to adapt to being an international manager. He's never done it before, and we know it's a very different environment to club management. We're seeing, I think, a trend in modern football where the best coaches who take charge of national teams are specialists. They do the national job, and it's very, very different. Because, look, Thomas Tuchel has always been able to, at Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich and Chelsea, buy the talent that he needs to fill his squad and get it to play the way he wants. If he's struggling for a left-back, he can go out and buy a left-back. The clubs he's been at have had huge resources. Well, England have got a real dearth of left-footed defenders at the moment, and he can't just go out and buy somebody to solve that problem. He will also only see the players once in a blue moon, and this is something Gareth Southgate spoke about a lot. Look at Lee Carsley in this last international break. He tried to change the way England play, put all of those attacking players on show, and he said they'd only had pretty much 20 minutes on the training field to give it a go and prepare for that. There'd been 2 training sessions building up to that game. That'll be very different for Thomas Tuchel. How will he adapt to that lack of time, that lack of contact with the players? Clearly, the FA think he's going to adapt well, and it'll suit him. But I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We'll see how that develops in his time as England manager.
One man he has already worked with is the England captain, Harry Kane. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. But first of all, Kane himself has been speaking about Tuchel before this news came out this evening. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, to be honest, I don't know. I haven't been told anything. So, until it's announced, obviously, I can't really comment. But we have to wait and see. Obviously, I know Thomas well from last year, and fantastic coach, fantastic person. So I'm sure the guys at the FA will contact me when they know more about it.
Yeah, and that was, just to repeat before, the news that Rob brought us about half an hour was made public. Interesting hearing him say that. You know, he knows him from last season at Bayern Munich. He scored a lot of goals under him. And at a time when people are just starting to ask questions about Kane's place in this England team, how significant could this appointment for him be?
Hugely significant for the England captain. And that little clip we played for him there, it made me feel like the England captain knew that Thomas Tuchel was about to sign a contract to become the new England manager. Listen, Harry Kane is the epitome of a brilliant diplomat. Mm-hmm. He would not have been drawn to say that, I don't think, if he didn't know it was a fait accompli that his former club manager at Bayern Munich was about to be his new national coach at England. But yeah, it's a huge boost for Harry Kane. The two men were very close at Bayern Munich, and Harry Kane enjoyed his best scoring season of his entire career last season under Thomas Tuchel. So that will be a boost for him. And you're right in to say that we've been beginning to question whether Harry Kane's star is beginning to wane. He's been pulled off, hasn't he? Has been substituted a couple of times in recent matches under Lee Carsley. Didn't see that very often under Gareth Southgate, did we? So I think it'll be a big boost for him. And I think Thomas Tuchel will rely very heavily on Harry Kane to get his message across to the squad, because it's a different way of playing, it's different ideas. Only Harry Kane knows those ideas. He's had experience of it. And Harry Kane is so important both on and off the pitch for this England squad. I think it'll be really, really important for Tuchel to have his leadership, his kind of figurehead, if you like, within that England team, within the squad.
Rob, just finally, just run through again what we've learned in the past hour or so and the timetable of events moving forward in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, so look, we broke the news exclusively on Sky Sports News at lunchtime that Thomas Tuchel was in advanced talks with the FA bosses to potentially become the new England manager, and things have moved pretty quickly, haven't they? Because we got confirmation from the FA just before 7 p.m, so less than 40 minutes ago, that there was going to be a news conference at Wembley tomorrow lunchtime with the FA chief executive, Mark Bullingham. At around that same time, a separate source had been speaking to me and to a colleague here at Sky Sports News to say he's signed the contract, the deal is done. And that was the confirmation that we needed, really. Thomas Tuchel confirmed as the new England manager. I should say that the FA haven't actually confirmed yet that Tuchel is the England manager. That's come from our sources, and we thought it had been confirmed by the fact that the FA have called this news conference with the main man at the FA tomorrow lunchtime. So that's when they'll formally give us the details of how long the contract is, who his backroom staff are, why they've gone for it. And that's the key point here. How does Mark Bullingham justify this decision, appointing a non-English coach, a German coach of the England men's football team? One word I just will say about his backroom staff, because we don't know the details yet there. Anthony Barry was his assistant manager at Bayern Munich. My understanding is that that Tuchel would like to take Anthony Barry with him to England, but Anthony Barry is still tied to a contract with Bayern Munich and is on gardening leave. So whether those negotiations have happened with Bayern Munich between them and the FA to try and release Anthony Barry, I think we'll find out in due course, and we'll get some of those answers tomorrow when we speak to the chief executive of the FA. But has Thomas Tuchel's backroom staff been sorted yet, or is that something still to be sorted?
Rob, massive story. Thomas Tuchel, the new England manager, subject to that confirmation from the FA tomorrow. Thanks for now, Rob.
The new 5...
Wow. Well, that's nice to know, innit? It's quite good to know that. But it's nice to know that we've got Thomas Tuchel as the England manager. It's been confirmed he will be on an 18-month over to January 1st, 2025. It's contract's tough. And also, if you guys are down to come into a stream tomorrow, I want you to keep your eyes peeled on the Twitter page. Same with Wolfie Audio's Twitter page. We might have a stream coming tomorrow together on his Twitch channel. So don't forget to like and subscribe, turn those post notifications on. And we'll see you in the next one. Adios.